Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Good afternoon and welcome to Collaborative Connections radio show and podcast sponsored by KLM. We are live today at Phoenix Business Radio X, and I am so excited to introduce you to three amazing business leaders in our community. I cannot wait for you guys to hear what they do, who they are, what they care about, and some takeaways, some tips for all of our listeners. So I'm going to jump right in. Our first guest is Andrew Kolikoff. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about, I know you want to know what people care about, but for listeners today, tell us a little bit about where you came from and what you're working on now.
Where I came from, these are long answers. I will make short. I'm originally from New York. I've been in Phoenix for 15 years. I am a recovering geek. Made it out of rehab. I still go to meetings every now and then. Former chief science officer, university adjunct professor, turned multiple-time business owner. I got lucky. I got to build a big company. And now what I really care about is leadership development, and building better cultures for people to work in.
And business name, come on.
It's called Aurelius. Aurelius Transformation, after Marcus Aurelius, the great Caesar of Rome.
There you go. Perfect. All right. Next we have Wendy Neal. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So same with you.
Okay. Again, I'll make it short. I, too, am a geek, at least former geek. Originally from Ohio, was a chemical engineer by trade before going to law school. And have been in the Valley for 23 years, was an attorney at a big law firm here in town, then became the chief legal officer of an ag biotech company, and then formed my own firm, Neal Law, PLLC, in 2017 after we had taken the former company public, and I wanted to move on to other things. And what I care about now is helping adolescent businesses get to the next level and really help business owners see the potential and realize the potential in their businesses.
Exciting. And be a part of their legal team.
Yes.
And what we all need at some point, right?
I might have a client for you.
By the end of this, we hope that's the
Yes.
point of this, right? Is that we all form these collaborative connections, hence the name of the show. And last but certainly not least, Dena Patton, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us about you.
Well, born and raised right here in Arizona, so native, third generation native, but moved quickly to New York City and spent my first 10 years in New York, and I love it and I miss it, but built my first business there and sold that and started my coaching practice in 2000. So just last week celebrated my 22nd year of Dena Patton coaching and training, and work with entrepreneurs in two phases: the growth phase, when they're really between that 200,000 and their first million, really the systems and structures and leadership and all that takes to grow a business, and then the multi-million-dollar plus scaling and those growing pains that my clients have. So I love entrepreneurship. I love entrepreneurs. I love being in conversation about growing businesses.
That's why we get along so well.
I know, I love it. I love it.
So I invited all of you on the show today because not only are, I love highlighting my clients, and Dena, I love getting to work with you that way, but I want to form these connections so that we can succeed as a community, so that we can build and grow business in the community by connecting each other and doing good business. You speaking of entrepreneurship, it's one of my favorite topics of all time. I've, in my adult life, only been an entrepreneur. Third or fourth business, I guess I'm on now. So tell us, Dena, about entrepreneurship. Tell us what that means to you. and then we'll go to Wendy and Andrew. What does entrepreneurship mean to you?
Well, emotionally, it means freedom. It's just, I have the personality of, I love freedom and I love variety. One of the reasons I've been doing this 22 years is every client is so different in different industries. And, as a business owner, we get to design our businesses, and we have the freedom to do that. And that's, I think, to me, being stuck in corporate, not saying that every corporation is horrible, but just for me, the creativity, the collaborations, the ability to create every day and that variety is what entrepreneurship is. And you can grow as big or small as you want. There is no expectations on entrepreneurs. I have friends and clients who are like, give me $100,000 business. I'm good to go. I work it part-time. And that's a blessing. That is perfect for them. And then there's people who, take their businesses into the hundreds of millions. And that's the freedom we have. Make it as big as you want.
Ooh, I love that. Wendy, I know I went backwards on you guys, as I said I wasn't going to do. But Wendy, what does entrepreneurship mean to you?
I mean, a lot of what we just heard, but being able to set and execute your own goals, not someone else's, and being able to design and redesign what those objectives are, and being able to choose what it is you're seeking. I know I run my law firm very differently than the law firm I started my career at, and very differently than other colleagues and former colleagues run their law firms. And none of the approaches are right or wrong. They're just different, and everyone is setting their own strategy.
Love that. All right, Andrew,
Oh,
you're
I guess
up.
I'm up. For me, it's the opportunity to live your life based on your own core values and to be able to put your own art into the world, whatever that art is.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what it is, like Dena said, but it's the opportunity to be more aligned with yourself. And it really means you need to do that inner work as well as the outer work to achieve that alignment. And for me, it is the most gratifying because of that.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's aligning with your higher purpose, right? And I think in a lot of my past businesses, I did it because I was so passionate about it, but it may not have aligned with exactly what I wanted to do, have that higher purpose of making sure small businesses have a fighting chance at success in this world.
Yeah, we
That's,
usually, like if you work in corporate, we follow the core values of those that have been espoused to us. But, entrepreneurship is the opportunity for us to do it our way, to put our art the way we want to put it into the world.
That's why I love it so much.
It's a delivery platform, right, for our purpose and our values. And when we see our business as that, I think it changes. It changes our eyes. It changes the whole context of, when something is a delivery platform for your purpose and your values, it just becomes so much more meaningful, right, and special. It's not just this job or a paycheck or the widget or the service. It's just there's a higher purpose to it. So good.
Oh, I love that. Speaking of entrepreneurship, Dena, I know you've had you talk about smallness and greatness in your work. And we all make mistakes in business, right? And it can immediately get to our smallness, I assume. How do you help people go from that mindset of like, ugh, that was terrible, I can never do this again, or whatever that voice is, to the greatness mindset?
Well, I think that mindset is a really big part of entrepreneurship. When we start flailing and failing and, the business is imploding and all of that, when you look at it, there's a mindset that's really dark. It's really in that smallness space of fear. And And I think that when people are willing to do the inner work of why is my business failing, flailing? Why do we make that mistake? Why did we get derailed? Like they are willing to ask the hard questions of, or maybe just through COVID, we all had to pivot and adjust. Maybe it didn't work. Instead of going into a really dark smallness of like, I suck, I have no skills, we get so super personal about it. Be willing to look and ask yourself the hard questions around, what decision did I make that wasn't aligned, or there's so many questions we can ask ourselves to get the train back on track. But a lot of people aren't willing to accept accountability. They want to blame and shame, or they don't want to do the inner work. It's hard. That inner work is probably 50% of the work I do with my clients, because every time you grow your business, you go from 100,000 to 300,000, or you go from $1 million to 5 million. New level, new devil. There's new devils at every level. And half of them, more than half of them, can be overcome with mindset. But you have to have those tools in your tool belt, or you just keep making the same mistakes. So mindset work, there's techniques to it. I talk about it in my book, The Greatness Game, because I want everybody to have access to their greatness. We're born with it. So that's number one. We're all born with it. We all have it. It's how do you access it on a daily basis in that meeting, in that pitch, deck that you're about to go ask an investor, like the hard moments of your business. How do you access your greatness so you're always leading from greatness and not that fear place of smallness?
It's such a cool thing. On the flip side, right? So we have internal work. We have to do the work. We have to protect ourselves on the outer side as a business, as an entrepreneur. As because most of your clients I know are bigger business, Wendy. What on the outside for legally, right? Why is it important for businesses to have legal counsel as part of, right? They need a coach. I'm 100% certain that every business needs a coach. They need a lot of things, right? And that's one of them. And legal counsel is just as important as the other, because why keep failing and making the same mistakes and just not bring in somebody to help you? So tell us why it's important. Do you think it's to have it as part of your team, as part of your business team?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely essential. And I think one of the mistakes that business owners tend to make is when they're starting their businesses or even growing their businesses is to wait to bring in legal counsel until there's a problem. And so many times it's heartbreaking, because I want my clients to be successful and I want to help their businesses grow. But when the first connection I have with a new client is having to kind of bring them back up to sea level and solve a problem before we can move forward, it's tough. And I like to be part business executive, part legal counsel. And having worked in the executive space, I can bring that. And the counsel that I give is get me involved as soon as you can, because we may not have a lot of work to do. It may be a 30-minute discussion on what you're planning to do, and it may just be a big thumbs up, good luck, watch out for these things and give me a call when you're ready. It doesn't have to be a big financial outlay, but just having that sounding board with outside legal counsel can give you more confidence. It can help your mindset and kind of being able to look forward and see what the landmines might be, and you're watching for them. You don't get blindsided by those things.
So it's so important to have part of the team. Andrew, I know.
I was just going to say, Wendy, you don't need to convince me. I'm Jewish. Half my family are Jewish lawyers, so you had me at hello.
But I think you made a good point about don't be reactive, be proactive. I am a huge advocate for being proactive. Think about things before they happen, tightening up your contract, your legal contracts, which is why I said I might have a client for you, because I have a client who has a really loose contract. I was like, what lawyer? And he's like, I did it myself. And I was like, no. So, things like that in our business before anything happens. And so that when it does happen, you have, something in writing. When you have nothing and then you get sued or something happens, then you're in double trouble, I feel. So that's why I'm like always pro lawyers.
Yeah. And it will cost you less money to engage counsel up front than it will to solve the problem later. Mm-hmm. If the problem can be solved. Mm-hmm. I make a lot of money from clients who use LegalZoom and Trademark Engine and Docs Online, who pay good money for bad documents that they think are good.
Oh, man. I can talk about spiraling.
Yes.
Andrew, in your work, I know you work with a lot of leaders and you see a lot of mistakes. Are there things that, that come up in your work that, like Dena was talking about and Wendy was talking about, that we can be proactive about, that, we can do ahead of time?
Well, one of the things I often say is, if you're not practicing something, what are you getting good at? And people only usually practice one or two things. One is, related to how they make money, right? We're always practicing, trying to get better at our craft and making money. And the other is things we derive pleasure from, if you like to play tennis or golf or whatever. But most people don't practice being and knowing themselves, the inner work that Dena was referring to. What's my behavior? What are my typical reactions to this? Why? Is it based off my story? So, a lot of the forecasting that you're talking about, it's, I've worked with a lot of CEOs of big companies, and one of the things that they're always working on is this word called anticipation. And if you really think about that word anticipation, some of it is empirical. You can actually predict based off of data. I am a recovering geek. But some of it, inarguably, is a feeling. And what is a feeling, right? And that's a long conversation. It can even get into spiritual. So to really do that, it's a lot of the work that Dena's talking about. You have to, and it's something I always say, is you have to learn how to align yourself with yourself. Mm-hmm. Because a business is just like a human being, and it's usually the mirror image of you as the leader, right? It has its inner reality and its outer reality. Your thoughts and feelings. How many people live an aligned life where your thoughts and feelings actually match your words and actions? Well, isn't that the culture of an organization as well? And so, it's really a long answer, but a lot of it comes from the practice of knowing thyself. Mm-hmm. So, and we can, I don't want to, take over the show, but it's actually a long, complicated answer. But this thing called anticipation is a big deal. Mm-hmm. It really is. I imagine, Dena, you're helping them anticipate. You're seeing things that they're not seeing. You're getting them prepared for things that are coming that they don't know.
Right.
And that is anticipation, but a lot of that is not just outer experience.
Yes.
It's the inner knowing.
Well, and that is, when people are growing their businesses, let's say you're a $300,000 CEO, but your goals in the next 2 years is to be $1 million company. And the inner game of where your mindset is and where you're leading from, who you're being, is stuck at that 300,000. It's very hard to become $1 million business when who you're being is a $300,000 CEO. You're anticipating that $1 million, right? So that it's such a part of when you're intentionally growing a business, you have to anticipate who you're being next. You have to start being $1 million CEO. You have to start showing up as $1 million CEO, because that's the game you're playing.
And I'm so glad you used the word being, because that's a word I use
all the time, right?
is how you be
Yeah.
is likely how your business
Is. Right.
not what you do. Everybody thinks it's all about the doing. We
Right.
just were,
Yeah.
Wendy and I were talking about this a little outside before we jumped on the show. It really is about the being.
Yeah.
But the problem is, without a coach, most of the time, people don't know what that means. They don't know how to be. What do you mean I have to better be? What does that mean? And ultimately, that boils down to practice, because if you're not practicing something, what are you getting good at? And people only practice doing. They don't practice being. I'll say it again. People usually only practice doing. They don't practice being. And that's essentially what coaches really do. That's the greatest value that coaches provide. Yes, they provide you value in elevating your business that turns into money. But ultimately, that raised level of being affects every area of your life, not just your business.
And what a cool trickle effect, right? If Andrew and your work is more big corporations, and you come in at the C level and say, let's fix the leadership and the culture of the organization, what a cool trickle effect that can have on the rest of the organization and the entire culture. And same with you, Dena. You get right to the owner and fix their mindset. And I know from talking to you, you have, people, your clients say, and my team goes, who the heck is this? Who showed up? And you're amazing. And where did you come from? Right? What a cool trickle effect.
And think about the strength and vulnerability it takes inside a large company with, let's say, a big brand, a known name, where the leader is not only working on themselves, but changing their behavior in front of their employees. What that does is it inspires the employees, if you provide them the same level of coaching, to want to work on themselves and change their behavior. So if you were to ask me, how do you change a culture, Kelly, it's one soul at a time. One soul at a time. And it usually has to start at the top. It does. But if they have the courage and the audacity to be vulnerable, to show how they're working on themselves, then it inspires others to do the same.
I love the word anticipation. I love that. I assume in all of our businesses, the more we can anticipate what's coming next for clients, right, then they're set up so much better. Wendy, like you talked about, oh my gosh, if they do all these things and they didn't anticipate it ahead of time, now you're having to do all the fixes. Isn't it better, to have you on the team to anticipate what's coming legally and how you can help them? Okay, that's not a good business decision. Let's go this way, right?
Yeah, and you say, oh, that wasn't a good business decision. That's one thing that I really focus on with my clients, because just like no two businesses are the same, no two clients are the same, and no two clients have the same appetite for risk. So, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not risk averse. Which is odd for a lawyer. But I like to talk to my clients about worst case scenarios. And, I kind of approach some proposals that they may bring to me on, hey, I want to do this, as, as long as it's not a company ending potential, or no one's going to go to jail. I'll lay out the options, and some of those options will have high risk. Some will be more risk averse, and they'll have, different likelihood of success and whatnot. But in many cases, I'll say, okay, here's the worst case scenario. Could you live with that? And sometimes the answer is yes. I could live with that worst case scenario. And for some clients, that's a path that we'll take forward, even though for many other people, that path would not be attractive at all. For that business owner, that's the right path.
I loved how you say we're all different, right? You could have the same exact type of business, but the way you run it, who you are, who you be, right, is going to make the business totally different with culture, with leadership, with your the higher purpose that you're serving, why you're doing what you're doing. Yeah.
And I'm glad we're talking about this because I think, coaching is so prevalent today that, it's everybody, oh, yeah, there's so many coaches out there. But I think there's a misconception about the real value that coaches are providing other than, because there's business coaches, there's leadership development, there's all kinds of coaches. But, the best ones are really helping them. Really what Dena said, she's doing both. She's not just focused on the business. She's helping them look at themselves and keeping them accountable to themselves and trying to align the two entities, the person and the business, and people love to, like you said, blame. Well, it's all these external things, but they're not looking at their behavior and their mindset and their story and how that affects their decision making, and that really requires an external force to look at us. I'll be very open and honest. I'm really good at helping people, but I'm not nearly as good at helping myself.
None of us are.
Not. I'm really not. And I'm really good at helping people, right? So, even coaches need help because even though we know all the buzzwords, we know how to see, we're really good at seeing it in you, Kelly, but we're not as good at seeing it in ourselves.
Well, I think leaders feel the same thing. There's a lot of CEOs that are like, I'm the leader, I'm the owner, I should have all the answers, I am everything to my team. And then they realize, I need my own support. I need my own team, right? And those are those CEOs that are like, I need a coach. I need a personal lawyer. I need maybe a nutritionist. One of the biggest things that I think entrepreneurs do is they get into the bad habits of entrepreneurship, the dark side of entrepreneurship, where it's the grind and eating really bad and saying yes to everybody. Like, that all comes from that smallness mindset of I have to hustle. It's 24/7. I have to say yes to everybody. Money is everything. If you're believing these things, then those are your beliefs, and beliefs dictate results. And that means that you are hustling all the time. You don't have the support you need. You are eating poorly. Your stress is killing you, and you're going to implode. And I think that's a piece that entrepreneurship, we don't talk enough about, is having a support team. And that, whether that's a health coach, a business coach, legal, marketing is a huge animal that I think consumes a lot of entrepreneurs. And I see people completely getting derailed because they're not outsourcing their marketing well enough. Because marketing is huge now. It's a huge game. And it can completely consume you, right? So getting those teams in place for support and setting yourself up for success, actually takes a mindset first. You will never delegate. You will never hire if you have that mindset of, I can do everything. I'm fine. All of that. It just makes you spin. And it hurts your marriage. It hurts your parenting. It hurts your health. And I think
Been there, done that.
Right? We all have the stories of implosion. And that's, you have to learn the hard way until you don't.
Which I did. My story is the big company I built, I got licensing from the NFL, baseball, basketball, and hockey for a product I invented. And it took off. And my clients were owners of teams. They were billionaires. And if nobody's ever been around billionaires, the best thing I could say is that they're different cats, okay? They're completely different cats. And I had the incredible fortune of some of them providing me guidance and mentoring, which at the time I didn't take heed to their wisdom, And I say it this way, the big thing I learned from them was this. And I speak of everybody out there and everybody in this studio. Your business, your career will only ever be as good as you are. And about as good as you are is about as good as it's ever going to get. Yet everything we learn and everything society will tell you is that it's about it. That we need money for it, people for it, technology for it. We need resources for it, education for it, training for it. The list is endless in what we need for it. But the happiest, most successful people you will ever meet are often working on themselves almost as much as they're working on it. And they told me this, and I didn't listen. And
silly Andrew.
And I had to
What?
learn the hard way,
Yes.
right? And it wasn't until after that I did all that work, right? And that's why I'm on this mission, because I don't want people to go through what I went through, because it sucked.
Mm-hmm.
It really sucked. And it's hard to sit in your own stink, right? And know how bad it smells and to face it. But the best leaders do it and practice it
Mm-hmm.
Consistently.
Yeah, no, that's a really good word. Consistency.
And like
it's not a 4-week.
No, okay.
Right.
So here's the thing. It's not a workshop, right? So if I were to ask you, how did you? And I may have asked you this already. How did you learn how to ride a bicycle, Kelly? What's the answer?
Somebody taught me, I guess.
Okay.
I
So
don't remember.
somebody taught you, or what? Most people say I had training wheels, right? Or my dad helped me. I fell off. But and that's not wrong. But here's the best answer. You got on it every day. Because if you got on it once every other week or once a month, I promise you, you would have not learned how to ride a bicycle. So the only way you did was practice is every day. Everything outside of that is dabbling, and it doesn't change behavior.
Right.
I'll say it again. Everything outside of practice, and let's define practice as every day. Everything outside of that is dabbling, and dabbling does not change behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they taught me. And I dabbled.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really liking this coaching session.
Wendy, as a new, I say this with very loving, new-ish, right? Business ownership. Is there things that you wish you would have known, right? They're talking about a lot of this. We can hire all the coaches. We can, right? We can surround ourselves with all the amazing people. But if we're not willing to take it in or do the work, as you say, then then we're going to fail ourselves. So is there something that new entrepreneurs, Dena, myself, Andrew, but we've been in entrepreneurship a long time, right? So we kind of probably have different answers or different outlooks. Is there something that you recently, have figured out that you don't want other entrepreneurs to make the same mistake?
I think the mistake that I have made and continue to make, and I'm going to practice
Yay.
not making it, is believing that no one can do it as good as I can do it. And therefore I don't delegate, and therefore I get overloaded. And when I get overloaded, as we've heard, everything else suffers. And that's something that I know I need to work on. And I see a lot of other entrepreneurs and some of my clients falling into the same thing. The CEO is the only decision maker. Whereas, other folks I work with, you have the person at the top who delegates decision making. Those decisions aren't less. They're great informed decisions and competent decisions. They're just made in a different way. And it's something that I need to learn to do and something that I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with.
One of my favorite lines is do what you're good at and outsource everything else.
Kelly, I have a question. What is this phenomenon you call when people dress up to be on a radio show?
You didn't know.
Somebody explain that to me.
You didn't know we're recording it. It's going to be on YouTube.
It's like,
right
I'm going
there.
to put on my best shirt.
You see it. Don't you see the camera? You can wave to the camera. We're going to be on
Okay,
YouTube
there we
later. That's right. That is a great question. You want to know why? I love that question because in COVID, when we all, retreated to our home offices, people would say to me all the time, you look so good. Why do you get dressed up, right? You're at home. I'm like, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
I get up in the morning. I'm going to work. I'm going to do something that I love to do every single day. Why would I not want to look my best, feel my best, and be in the right mindset to get, to do it? And they're like, oh, do you have pajama pants on? No, if I was in pajama pants, I want to be on the couch. I don't want to be sitting in front of the
I know
computer.
a lot of people that say exactly what you just said. Because, COVID has really changed, everything. It's changed how we choose. This whole thing, the Great Resignation that happened. What they found out now is that it's actually was not as a result of compensation that drove it. It was
Culture.
Toxic cultures and out of touch cultures. And usually, it's the younger generation that really cared about it. Well, guess what now? We all care about it. It is now what is driving business. And so just even having that mindset of getting dressed and feeling like you're in the game, right, is a big deal. I just wrote an article on exactly just that, the Great Resignation. It's how out-of-touch cultures drove.
Yeah.
And the evidence came from an MIT Sloan management. There's tons of data on it. So, it's not compensation. People want to live their lives differently, more authentically to themselves, in how their values are. And that is exactly what we were talking about with entrepreneurship. More and more people are going into business for themselves without, unfortunately, having a clue about who they really are. And that's where coaching now, to me, is more important now than ever. And even talking to other consultants, the one thing I learned, people ask me, okay, well, you're a scientist, you know all this stuff. And I said, you want to know inside how I feel about that? That I don't know shit. That I don't know. Inside how I feel is the more I know, the more I don't know, right? But all you guys think, oh my God, he's a scientist. He must know all this stuff, right? And how I do that is I need to get better and better and better and better. And I think that's kind of where we're all headed, is these better cultures of people all wanting to live more authentically and to have collective values they believe in, not just honesty, trust, and integrity, but, self-worth and laughter and kindness and things that people can really identify with,
Right.
and appreciation, and building cultures based on that. And I think you're going to start seeing movement there. You are going to start seeing companies change more towards that than what we, culture really, when I grew up, I'm 58 years old now. It was just words on a wall.
Yeah, but that's what's changed. I think that's the biggest thing. Me being in this work for 22 years, there's been moments where I'm like, I feel like no one, when you're preaching values and authenticity and culture and mindset and teamwork, they're like, yeah. fluffy, like we don't need that. Like we're all about,
because their actions don't match it.
Right. Or we're all about profits and we're all about, right. And I think this is a big wake-up call, both to the big companies and to the smaller. I've met so many small business owners that are like, why would I have values? We only have 3 people. Or culture. They think values and culture are a big brand thing. And I think that this awareness of your brand, who you are as a brand, starts with when you are one person. And it starts with your right, who you're being, what your goals are, your dreams, your mindset, your leadership, your values, all start when you are one person. And when you don't know who you are there, that's your business is starting off track, and you're just doing a lot of hoping and wishing and a lot of throwing spaghetti on the wall. And then you add 3 people to that, and then all of a sudden 3 people is 10 people and then 20 people. I have a client who they're making their jump from 20 million to 30 million, and their culture is broken. And that's one thing that COVID brought, it's bringing up that stuff, but this is good. It's awakening them and going, whoa, we have a culture problem. We thought it was something else. It's our culture.
And what I've learned is, because this is something I've been advocating for years, but what I've learned now is we're going to start seeing that as a second bottom line.
Yes.
And
Amen.
Even
About
though
time.
we know the bottom line is, a business can't run unless there's a bottom line. I mean, we know that, but it has to be now authentic with its culture, because I promise you, the best talent, the people who are the brightest, smartest, and give a shit the most, and who doesn't want people that have gas, right? That's my acronym for it, by the way. Karen knows this.
They're going to choose
the
ones.
They're going to go. They're not. These people now, COVID has changed it. They're not. It's not compensation. It is
happiness.
It's all those things. And companies, and here's the problem. Here's the big problem. It takes a long time to build a good culture. Mm-hmm. It's not like, I have a financial problem. Let me go bring somebody in, a consultant, and he'll fix it. There's no magic pill for culture. It's behavioral change. A culture is how you do things, which is based on how you be, right? Mm-hmm. To change behavior takes time and practice. So companies have been reticent to do that work, to work on the behavior and to work on themselves and changing their behavior. So I think even despite that, you're going to see companies invest in their culture, in their people, and work and put the work in so that a year, 2 years down the road, it's now done and aligned. Mm-hmm. And that's what I think COVID is going to really reveal to all of us.
The blessing in COVID.
Yes.
There's lots of blessings in COVID, and that's one of them. I think awake leaders who are more awake and more shifting into the internal.
Wendy, how has COVID affected your industry, what you're doing with helping them make better choices up front and build a better business up front? Has COVID affected what you're doing?
Well, and IP. I want to hear that because I know IP is a big deal, and a lot of people don't protect it.
Yeah. Well, on the COVID question first, what as we're talking about this, one of my observations throughout COVID that I just thought was magical is how my practice has been remote since I started it. So talking on conference calls and such with folks was that was not new. But the Zoom call phenomenon and everyone working at home and having those dynamics of the children coming in and the dogs barking and people in their pajamas or fresh out of the shower, it humanized everyone. And it was like it just drew down the facade of the hierarchy. The CEO is in sweatpants, and the lowest level scientist on the call is
my fur baby was in every meeting with me.
Oh yeah. But it really made the relationships closer because everyone was kind of in it together, and we were all facing the same challenges and dynamics.
But has it affected your industry, your profession in any way other than what you just said, in how people engage you and how people are thinking about their business from perhaps a legal perspective?
One of the things...
Or IP.
Well, that's why I said that, is because I know a lot of people in the coaching, training, like we create content, we create programs, we're writing books, we're creating curriculum. All of that needs IP. So like just in my own legal game, I know I've had to have a lot more legal counsel and legal protection because I'm creating digital things that I need IP protection around. And that, to me, I would think COVID would bring up a lot of that.
Yeah, there definitely has been a spike in, trademark applications, people learning more about branding and content. On the flip side, people also learning, sometimes the hard way, about the limits on the use of other people's content and when things can get you into trouble online and in your social media marketing and branding. So yes, I would say there's been an uptick in that sort of work. And a fantastic example of getting legal counsel involved early, primarily in the trademark space, because many entrepreneurs they'll think of a name for their business, think of a name for their product, launch it, start going gangbusters, and then they get that cease and desist letter from someone who got that name first. And now it's not as easy as it could have been at the front end, where they come to their legal counsel, we do a search, we say, that's probably not the best name, here are some obstacles, let's guide you in a more productive direction. Instead, we're having to go backwards and rebrand and reinvest in everything that they've already been building. So I have seen an uptick in those needs, but it's exciting. It's exciting to have a lot of new business owners. It has drawn out kind of this gig economy and people realizing that it's great to just take a bet on yourself. Yes. And often and reinforcing that working for a big company is not always job security. If anything else, being an entrepreneur and taking that bet on yourself and knowing that you control your destiny, that's job security.
Right. I love that. And I think that, what more of that is happening. I think that when you were talking about that just a few minutes ago, I think people are looking at their job, they're unhappy or they feel trapped or whatever is going on for them. And I think although for us who have been entrepreneurs for a long, long time, for us it was always an option. But if you ever talk to someone who's been in corporate 20, 30, 40, 50 years, entrepreneurship has never been an option. Like it's not an option in their mindset, right? What shifted is entrepreneurship is now an option. I have a client who quit a Fortune 30 company, top executive, and said, I'm done. I am done. I'm building my own business. That even option in their head, I don't think was there.
I agree.
Until recently.
Well, and
it's
technology has helped with that. I mean, the
technology
internet,
has.
It is an option.
It's an option, and they give themselves permission now. That's one, and it's easier. I now know the steps. I think it was this kind of mystery, building a business was this kind of like mystery of I don't really know how to do it and I don't know how to get trained in it. Now there's so many coaches that can help, but also Google. I mean, my gosh, there's YouTubes and blog.
Thank God for YouTube.
Right? So it's no longer this mystery. I think people can jump from corporate to entrepreneurship so much easier with velocity and get a business up and running that now it's becoming super, easier and popular.
And probably some of that has to do with if they're backs up against the wall because the culture is terrible and they hate going to work,
right,
and their lives are suffering every which way around it. Well, then they're like, okay, I got to do something else.
Right.
I can't do this anymore, right? So I think it was a forced kind of, right? Because before, if it wasn't an option, but it was always an option, now it's like, okay, I really can't handle this anymore.
I can make the jump.
I'll make the jump, but they need the legal counsel. They need the coaches. They need the people in their corner that can say, this is how we're going to succeed. Because you've come from corporate. I have a ton of clients who came from corporate. Now they're like, I have no idea what I'm doing,
Yeah.
And so it's baby steps. It can be baby steps. Like you said, culture doesn't happen overnight. Either does entrepreneurship. Either does building a business.
Right.
So having those steps and having the help and having the people in your corners makes a huge difference.
And you always have to remember whatever skills are making you a successful person in corporate, those skills are transferable. I mean, I can't tell you the one woman I'm talking about, the client who made that jump. She's not doing obviously the same job as she did in corporate, but so many of her skill sets and her leadership, that is what she's actually making double her salary as a top executive in corporate 30 in the first year of her business, because she owned her gifts that were her gold in corporate. You can take your gold, what you are making money in corporate, and build a business around that. You know, there's systems, there's branding, there's legal. Yes, there's pieces, but you can do it. You won't do it overnight. Give yourself 6 months. But I just want to encourage everybody that's thinking, you know, I've got to make this jump. Do it. Surround yourself with, you know, education, information, and make it happen.
Yeah, don't make the mistake I made, you know, and that's a big reason why I do what I do. I'm serving, and, you know, I got lucky, and I was able to exit okay. Not as well as I had hoped, but okay. And I think that if I, you know, people always say if I knew now what I knew then, what I know now, get help. I think Dena said it, you know, we can't. One of the things I had to learn was to know to ask for help. And
That's hard to do.
And that's not just in business, that's in life. That's in personal problems, you name it. Know to ask for help. And too many leaders don't even know that.
They don't know that it's okay to ask for help, number one.
Well, they think you're, like Dena said, you're supposed to have all the answers. That's what I thought.
Yeah, people come to me to solve their problems. I can't possibly go to someone else to have them help me solve my
Well,
problems.
they think it's a sign of weakness, when in reality, it's actually it's a strength. You can use vulnerability as a strength to build and nurture a relationship and to turn a follower into a leader, right? So, yes.
I love that. Can you believe we've all been talking for almost an hour? Isn't that insane? It goes by so fast. And
Have you not been with me before?
All right. So actionable takeaways, actionable tips, something you hope that people listening, business owners, leaders, leaders in, you know, in today's world, something, you know, a book you read, a quote, an actionable tip. Give us something. Andrew, I'll start
For
with
me,
you.
that's easy. It goes back to what I said. If you're not practicing something, what are you getting good at? And people only practice two things, if they practice two, and that's something they make money from or something they derive pleasure from. But they're not actually practicing looking at themselves, looking at their thought patterns, what their story is, what their insecurities are, what makes them feel uncomfortable. Why does it make me feel uncomfortable? Why do I avoid this and do that? You know, and if you just dabble in that, your behavior will never change. And the best way to get help in that is to find a coach, to find somebody like Dena, somebody that will work with you to help you practice. It's all about practice.
Love that. All right, Wendy, what about you? In legally or not, a takeaway, a tip, some actionable, something that business owners or leaders can learn from you.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is for any business owner, whether brand new or very experienced, is to think of legal counsel as an investment and as part of the overall business team. You know, our job is to help advise and help the business get on a path to profitability and really grow. We're not just expense line items. We're not scary. You know, we're really there to help.
You don't look scary to me.
Yeah, as long as we're on the same side of the table.
Right.
You want her on your side of the table.
There you go.
Right? Yes.
And prevention. prevention, right?
Yes.
Doing it ahead of time is really important in getting your team set up. And
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even about prevention so much, because let's face it, you're not going to run a profitable business without risk and without encountering problems. It's really more about risk assessment. Being able to anticipate the problems, to glean from past experiences how things are likely to play out, apply some of the psychology to that, and talk about options, risks, and alternatives.
Good. Now I'm going to tell everybody, you need an accountant, a coach, a lawyer. Let's see who else.
Well, what business doesn't?
Everyone.
What business doesn't?
Every single, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I would add banker to that.
Yes.
Yes.
Tax advisor.
Right. Tax
Yeah.
advisor.
Financial advisor, yep, absolutely. Oh, there's a lot.
Right.
We need a big team.
Right. And your accountant is not a tax strategist.
No, different
That's
Let's just get that out there.
we can have a whole show on
Let's
that.
just get that out
Yes.
there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dena, what about you? Takeaways, tips, actionable things for business owners, entrepreneurs?
An actionable tip is I am really, really a big advocate around systems. The point of your business is becoming a well-oiled machine, so it's not this big, heavy lift. And if you don't have systems, you're probably dealing with a lot of overwhelm and a lot of drop balls. What I say is, where there is chaos, there is no system. So look in your business of where there's chaos or breakdown, there's probably not a system there. So that's one thing. I'm super passionate about everything being systemized. And then the second thing is we'll never outsell or outlead our mindset. You got to work on your mindset. And one of the things I'm passionate about is my book, The Greatness Game. Why is I know not everybody will work with me or hire a coach, but you can't afford a $10 book, whether it's my book or someone else's book on mindset. Work on your mindset. Your business will grow. Your revenue will grow. Your team will grow. Your impact will grow because you are working on your mindset.
It's
A
everything.
wise person once told me the single greatest, most important thing for happiness and success. No, there's three things for happiness and success in life. There's three. Listen very carefully. 1, mindset is everything. 2, mindset is everything. And 3, mindset is everything.
I love that.
That is great. All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. Andrew, tell people how they can get a hold of you. And
I'm a big LinkedIner. I've got 28,000 connections. I post a lot. Hence, my clients are national and international. So you can find me in LinkedIn, Andrew Kolikoff, Kolikoff, 2 F's like Frank. You can also, of course, go to my website, which is Aurelius, after Marcus Aurelius, transformation.com. And I love to engage and debate. I care not about being right. I care most about finding it.
That's great. Wendy, what about you?
Best way is LinkedIn. Wendy Neal, typical spelling of Wendy, Neal, Neal, and message me there, connect, and that's a great way to reach me.
Love that. My website is probably the easiest, Dena, Dena, Patton, Patton.com.
I want a good name like that.
Like General Patton. I am on Instagram, Dena Marie Patton, and on Facebook and on LinkedIn. But easiest place is my website, and my book, The Greatness Game, is on Amazon. You order it today, you get it tomorrow. You change your mindset.
Oh, I have a book too. Am I
There
allowed
you
to
go.
plug that?
Yes.
It's called The Success Secret: What Happy, Successful Leaders Never Tell You. And it's also on Amazon, and it's very similar to Dena's. It really works on, it guides you into better knowing yourself and looking at yourself more
Yes.
objectively to actually know what to look at and know what to practice. And it's called The Success Secret.
And now everybody can know why I invited all three of you
Love
on
it.
together for
I love
an
it.
amazing conversation. You've been listening to Collaborative Connections radio show and podcast sponsored by KLM. Do what you love and outsource everything else. Until next time, happy connecting.
Look at this.